Alright, what's up everyone, I'm FALCONS, and today I'm going to be doing a Seahawks prediction video when it comes to the 2020 NFL season. With the schedules out, I think that it's time to make a prediction for how I think the Seahawks will do. You know, I do this every single year, but this is the first year that I can actually make a video on it, giving my thoughts to actual people, rather than basically just telling my parents and being like, hey look, if this happens, I said it. Now I have a video to basically prove that if everything somehow happens based on my predictions, that I did say it, and I am just a genius. So with that said, I think that some of these predictions could be a little bit biased, but hopefully not too biased. I tried to stay as neutral as I could and give good reasoning for the predictions that I make. And hopefully this video isn't too long. I'm going to try to keep it relatively short, but I feel like it's going to go much longer than the rest of my videos have been recently, which I actually like the length that my videos are, around 5 minutes. I think that's a good thing, but this video is definitely going to be much longer because there's a lot more to talk about. But anyway, let's just get right into this video. I'm not going to be taking home field advantage into account because there's a very good chance that fans won't be at most of the games this season because of the whole coronavirus. And some games there's potentially a plan to not actually play them in their scheduled venues. Because of that, I'm not going to be taking home and away advantages into account, except for one. I did take it into account for one, but you'll see when the time comes. But anyway, time to get into the preseason. The preseason, if you haven't seen the schedule, is the Seahawks playing the Raiders, Texans, Chargers, and Vikings. The preseason isn't too much of showing who will do the best in the actual season, but it is time for the newly drafted rookies and the second and third year players to actually show out and show what they can do. I don't want to go into much detail on the preseason because this video will probably be pretty long, so I'm just going to give a quick prediction to start off the video. I'm going to say we'll go 2-2 in the preseason. I think we beat the Raiders and the Vikings and lose to the Texans and Chargers. These are just kind of thrown out there, but I think that the Texans and Chargers will try to prove themselves with their offseason moves that they've made, so they'll put a little bit more into the preseason when it actually comes down to it to try to make an early impression. But to get into the actual regular season predictions, starting at week 1 against the Atlanta Falcons. Last year, Seattle won 27-20 against the Falcons. However, Matt Ryan didn't play in that game, and that was definitely a big factor. With the loss of Austin Hooper and Devontae Freeman and their new acquisitions of Todd Gurley and Hayden Hurst, their offense will be pretty different but could easily remain as strong as it was last season. Desmond Trufant was also released this offseason along with other defensive changes, so it will be interesting to see how much their defense will be able to do against Seattle. With the Falcons' pass-heavy offense retaining Matt Ryan and Julio Jones, they'll have the potential to cause problems for any team, but we'll just have to see if they'll be able to stop the Seahawks offense, because last year Russell Wilson and Chris Carson had very efficient days against the Falcons. With all that being said, I do believe that this will go down as a win for the Seahawks. I think Seattle will play pretty average in the preseason and come out strong to start the regular season. In this video, I'll try to make some score predictions as well for the game, so I'll just say that this game will end up being 24-20 in the Seahawks' favor. Relative close game, but I think the Seahawks will pull it out. Going into week 2, we have the New England Patriots. I don't want to talk too much on this one because I think everyone kind of knows the Patriots are on the tank for Trevor bandwagon, but it could possibly happen that they end up picking up Cam Newton as their starting quarterback for this year. But if they remain starting Jarrett Stidham or Brian Hoyer as their starter for next season, there's a good shot that they'll be the worst team in the league. Although their defense still is going to be very talented and very well coached, I don't know if it'll be able to do enough to win games with an offense that has lost one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, if not the greatest. So my prediction for the week 2 game against the Patriots is a 17-10 victory for the Seahawks. I think it'll be an inefficient day for the offense, but I don't think the Patriots will be able to outscore them either way. Obviously, there can be a change in the starting quarterback before the season, but with Jarrett Stidham, I believe the Patriots offense will be pretty lackluster for a good part of the season. Going into week 3, we have the Dallas Cowboys, and the Cowboys have one of the most annoying fan bases in the NFL, but I'm going to try to be as honest and unbiased as possible as I can be as a fan of the Seahawks, and I'm going to say that we're going to actually lose to the Cowboys. I don't think it'll be a bad game. I don't think it'll be a blowout or anything, but I think it'll be a disappointing loss. I'd say maybe like 28-17. Because Seattle always has one or two of those disappointing losses in a season that you just kind of, you wish they could have played better, but everything just kind of goes the other team's way. I don't think it'll be a bad performance on either side of the field for the Seahawks, but I think it'll just end up not going our way, and it'll be basically super disappointing to lose to the Cowboys because you'll have to see everything that Cowboys fans say about it for the next few weeks. And going into week 4, we have the Miami Dolphins. And the Miami Dolphins are a very interesting team. They're going to be very interesting to watch this year with a lot of changes that have happened very quickly. And it could potentially lead to quick success, but Ryan Fitzpatrick will likely be the starting quarterback for at least the first half of the season for the Dolphins, while Tua Tagovailoa ends up getting more healthy and basically just training and becoming more durable. I believe this will actually play into the Dolphins' favor, but with so many differences in most major positions on the Dolphins, it's hard to take anything from previous seasons to actually put into this prediction. But I believe it will be an interesting game, and I will say that I think the Seahawks will win in a pretty high-scoring game. I'm going to say around 30-21, with the Seahawks winning, of course. And I think it'll be a good offensive day for the Seahawks. But overall, this game is very iffy to predict because the Dolphins have made so many changes, and Fitzmagic can do basically anything and potentially win them any game against any opponent. So we'll just have to see how it ends up going, but nonetheless, a win in Week 4 against the Miami Dolphins. And going into Week 5, we have the Minnesota Vikings. The Vikings were a team that definitely gave the Seahawks a run for their money last season, with the Seahawks winning 37-30, with some key injuries to Dalvin Cook and Stephon Diggs in that game, which definitely helped the Seahawks. The Vikings no longer have Stephon Diggs, however, but Dalvin Cook is still a great back that can produce if he's given any openings. I think the Vikings will still have a great offense this year, and with a preseason matchup and an early regular season matchup, it will likely be more of a preparation match between the Seahawks and the Vikings. With that, I do believe the Seahawks will win if everything goes as planned for them. I wouldn't be surprised if Dalvin Cook has a huge game and completely derails their game plan that the Seahawks end up creating. I do think this game will be a high-scoring and close game, so I'll go with a 37-34 edged-out victory for Seattle. And going into Week 7, we have the Arizona Cardinals coming out of the bye week. This will be Seattle's first divisional game of the year, and I think it'll be a pretty fun one to watch. With a full year under Kyler Murray's belt, the Cardinals' offense will likely do much better than they did last year, while maintaining Kenyon Drake, who actually took over in the second game of the year between Seattle and Arizona. They've also found a way to add DeAndre Hopkins in one of the biggest moves of the offseason, one of the stupidest moves of the offseason as well. And Isaiah Simmons will also be a huge addition when it comes to their defense. I believe their offense is still going to be a little inconsistent if it still relies on Kyler Murray, which it will as the starting quarterback. But I think there is potential for Kyler Murray and the Cardinals offense to have some really good games and some really bad games. And with that, I do think this will actually end up being a loss for Seattle coming out of the bye week. I think the Seahawks will come out of the bye week and have a pretty slow offensive day like last year against the Eagles after the bye week. Unlike the Eagles game, though, I don't think their defense will be able to win the game. So sadly, I'm going to go with a 24-13 loss for the Seattle Seahawks. And going into Week 8, we have the San Francisco 49ers, yet another divisional game, and I think this is going to be 100% a defensive battle. The 49ers have an amazing defense, and it's really just a matter of either offense trying to get any points on the board that they can, and it'll be pretty fun to watch. With DeForest Buckner traded away, it might make it a little easier for the Seahawks running backs, but the 49ers did end up drafting Javon Kinlaw, who will probably take his place and could potentially cause some problems for Seattle. I do believe the Seahawks offense is much better than the 49ers though, but with two good defenses going at each other, it'll be a struggle for both teams to score in this game. With that, I do believe the Seahawks will win this game in a low-scoring affair. I'd say the score will be something around 16-10. It'll definitely be a great game for people who are fans of defense, and if we can contain Nick Bosa whatsoever, I think the Seahawks offense will completely outshine the 49ers offense. And at Week 9, we have the Buffalo Bills. This game is actually the only one that I'm going to take the home field advantage into account, because it'll be an early November game when this is actually played, but I would not be surprised whatsoever if the conditions are already horrible in Buffalo, because this game is going to be at Buffalo. And the Bills actually do have a very good defense, and with Josh Allen, who played very well last season, acquiring Stephon Diggs into the offense as well, I think the Bills will be a force to be reckoned with in 2020, and especially with them playing in their home field of just horrible conditions, I think that'll be another thing that works in their favor. I think it'll be an exciting game for both teams who have both great offenses and great defenses. I will give this game to the Buffalo Bills, though, because with such great players on both sides of the football and the conditions being so rough, I think the Bills will have a great season and take this game at home. I do believe it'll be a close game with a score of 27-21 in the Bills' favor, but still a loss for the Seahawks. And going into Week 10, we have the Los Angeles Rams. And coming out of the bye week with 2 losses, I think the Seahawks will try to pick it up going into the easiest part of their schedule, I believe. With the Rams in such a bad place in terms of their salary cap, they've made a lot of moves that have basically killed their offensive potential. I personally don't believe that Jared Goff will be able to do well without Todd Gurley because the offense will most likely struggle relying on him for production without amazing receivers. The Rams defense is still very good with Aaron Donald and Jalen Ramsey, just to name their star players. They've got some other pretty big name players on the defense, so I think that they'll be all right on that front. But overall, with the severe lack of offensive talent, I'm going to chalk this up as a win for the Seahawks. After a loss to the Bills, I think the Seahawks will get a big win this week, and I'm going to predict around 33-17 as the score. And in Week 11, we have the second matchup against the Arizona Cardinals for the Seahawks, and I don't want to restate too many points that I made because I've already done the whole thing on the Cardinals, but with some new difference makers on the Cardinal, it's hard to make predictions based on last season, but I will say that I think the Seahawks will win this game, splitting the season series just like they did last season. I think this game will begin the Seahawks' rhythm going into quite a few easy games in my opinion. I think this will be a convincing victory after a big win against the Rams. 27-13 is the score I'm going to be going with. Seattle winning, of course. Going into Week 12, we have the Philadelphia Eagles. The Eagles did end up getting Darius Slay in the offseason, which is a very good move, but they did end up drafting Jalen Hurts, and a lot of Eagles fans didn't like that pick, nor did they like the decision to let the Cowboys take CeeDee Lamb and them taking Jalen Reagor. They do have a good team, but they always seem to underperform. The Seahawks and Eagles did play twice last season, once in the regular season and once in the playoffs. Both games ended up being 17-9 in the Seahawks' favor, so I will go with the pattern and say that the game will end up being 17-9 with the Seahawks winning. I think that by this point in the season, the Seahawks will have a lot of momentum and making their playoff push later in the season. I wouldn't be surprised if the game was a bigger win for the Seahawks, but I'm going to stay true to form and continue the pattern from the last season. I'm going to say 17-9 because I think it'd honestly be funny to see another game go yet the same way. And going into Week 13, we have the New York Giants. The Giants are a good team all around. With the retirement of Eli Manning, Daniel Jones does seem to be their quarterback for the future. Saquon is one of the best running backs in the league. They've got some very underrated receivers and a good defensive line. Overall, I think they'll be pretty good pretty soon, but I don't think they'll have everything figured out this season. Plus, I think Seattle will have a lot of momentum going into this game, so I think that this will be a 33-20 victory for the Seahawks. This will probably be a big day for Russell Wilson because the Giants will take a big hit at corner due to DeAndre Baker's legal issues. It could go either way. I think it depends mainly on how Daniel Jones ends up playing, but either way, I'm going to be giving a win to the Seahawks. And going into Week 14, we have the New York Jets. Continuing on the Seahawks' tear late in the season, the New York Jets will attempt to take them down, and I'm not sure that Sam Darnold will be very good this season, but with a change of scheme, I think Le'Veon Bell could do very well. I'm not sure if they're going to change scheme, but I'd hope they do because it was a bad offense last season. The receivers are all right. Their defense has some big players, but overall is pretty average. I think that this will be a pretty easy victory for the Seahawks. Bold of me to say because they could completely come out and just surprise everyone and play amazingly, but last season they were horrible, and without too much change to their roster, I'd expect a pretty below average season for the Jets, and with that being said, I think it will be a 24-13 victory for the Seahawks. Not the biggest of wins, but a win nonetheless. And going into Week 15, we have the Washington Redskins, and like the Jets, the Redskins could come out and play very well, but going off of last season, I don't think that they'll be too good this season. They were last in the league in passing yards per game and points per game. They were also very below average in rushing yards per game, so I don't think that they'll even be above average. With Ron Rivera as their new coach, who knows? But going off the last few seasons and their overall roster strength, I'm going to say that Seattle will once again win. I believe this will be a blowout, something like 33-14. Dwayne Haskins was too inconsistent last season for me to think that he'll be able to lead the offense to success just one season after. And, Terry McLaurin could definitely be a big problem with his speed, but if we can keep him in check, I think it'll be a big win for the Seahawks. Going into Week 16, we have the Los Angeles Rams, and going into the final two games of the season, both being divisional games, the Seahawks would be on a 6-game winning streak and 11-3 with the predictions that I have made. I do think that they'll end up winning this second matchup against the Rams. Like I said in the first matchup, I don't think Jared Goff will be able to lead the Rams to too many wins with the lack of big receivers. I do think that this game will be much closer than the first game, but I still do believe that the Seahawks will come out on top. I'll say the score will be somewhere around 24-21, a very close game that'll probably come down to a late drive by Russell Wilson to win the game. I respect the Rams defense completely, but I don't think their offense will be able to do much this season. So with that, a season sweep for the Seahawks. And going into Week 17, the final game of the regular season, if everything is going as planned from my predictions, the Seahawks will be planning for the playoffs and could potentially rest some of their starters. I don't think the 49ers will do as well as they did last season, so I think the Seahawks will win the NFC West and potentially have a first-round bye at this point. There's also potential that the 49ers could do as well as they did last season, and this could be a huge game to decide the winner of the NFC West. Who knows? Either way, I believe it's a loss for the Seahawks, and for my score prediction, I'm not going to be going with my whole backups playing, prediction, but I'm going to be going off of if this is an intense game to win the NFC West. And with that, I'm going to say that it's going to be a close 27-24 loss for the Seahawks, but nonetheless, Seahawks going to the playoffs. And that's actually going to do it for my kind of game-by-game predictions. To give a brief overview, that is going to be 12-4 on the season for the record and 4-2 in the division, splitting the season series between the Cardinals and the 49ers, but winning both games against the Rams. And obviously, this could be a little bit biased. 12-4 is a very good record, but with the Seahawks going 11-5 last season, there's always a chance that they could actually end up doing this well. To give some very quick predictions on some player stats this season, I believe that Russell Wilson will once again have a very good year. He'll go for over 4,000 passing yards and over 30 touchdowns. I think DK Metcalf will pick it up after his rookie season, which was good, but I think that he will be a 1,000-yard receiver this year. And Chris Carson, if he stays healthy, I believe he'll have another 1,000-yard rushing season. And with that, I'd like to thank you for watching this video. Make sure you comment down below what your thoughts are on this prediction. And if you really want to, leave a comment of what your prediction is for either the Seahawks or whatever team you enjoy watching. I will read all comments, respond to any comment I can. Leave a like if you enjoyed, and subscribe if you're new. With that, I'd like to thank you for watching, and have a great day.